to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, a quiet place where your day can gently melt into night, and where this evening you will wander into an old apothecary filled with lavender hearts and soft, secret magic. You can begin by finding a comfortable position, letting your body settle just a little more with every breath. Feel the surface beneath you, steady and supportive, and allow your weight to sink down as if the earth itself is holding you with patient, open hands. Take a slow breath in, filling the lungs like a calm tide rolling onto shore, and then release it, letting the tide roll softly back. There is nothing you need to do right now, nowhere you need to be. The day has already happened. You have already done enough. Right now, you are simply here, listening, resting. Notice the air around you, how it touches your skin. Perhaps it is cool against your face or warm and gentle like a soft blanket. If you like, you can imagine that the air is carrying the faintest hint of lavender, sweet and clean, reaching you from somewhere just beyond the walls of your room. As you breathe in, imagine the scent arriving a little closer. And as you breathe out, feel the muscles of your face and jaw let go, as if a quiet hand has smoothed them, soothed them. Your shoulders drop a little, your hands loosen. The small places deep inside you that have felt tight or hurried begin to unknot with no effort at all. In your mind's eye, a small street begins to appear, cobbled and smooth with age, washed in the soft blush of evening. Lanterns glow along the walls, their golden light gentle and steady. The sky is a deepening blue, the first stars just beginning to show, like tiny silver seeds scattered across velvet. And at the end of this quiet street stands a shop, old and inviting, with a wooden sign that creaks very softly when the breeze moves past. In curling letters it reads, "The Old Apothecary." As you picture this doorway, your breath flows slowly, rhythmically, in and out. The world grows quieter around you and the story begins to unfold. Not about you now, but about someone wandering toward that little shop under the evening sky. Long ago, in a town that seemed stitched together from dusk and candlelight, there was a narrow lane where the world grew quieter with each step. Along this lane, the shops leaned toward one another as though sharing secrets, and the cobblestones remembered every footfall that had ever passed. At the very end of that lane stood the old apothecary. Its door was painted the color of deep, soothing tea. Its windows were hazy with time, a delicate lace of dust, and age catching the lantern light. Inside shelves leaned gently under the weight of glass jars and paper-wrapped bundles of fragrant leaves and curled roots, of mysterious bottles whose contents shimmered faintly when the moon was full. In this apothecary lived a keeper named Elian. Elian had hair the color of quiet ash and eyes the color of storm clouds when the rain has already passed. They moved with a kind of unhurried grace, as if each step was part of a ritual of peace. The townsfolk said that Elian knew the language of herbs, that they could listen to a leaf or a flower, and somehow understand what comfort it wished to offer. Every evening, when the bells of the town chimed the close of the day, a soft ritual unfolded in the old apothecary. Elian would light a single beeswax candle on the counter. They would open the shutters just a little to let the gentle night air wander in, and then they would begin to prepare the lavender hearts. The lavender hearts were small sachets sewn from scraps of soft fabric, in faded blues and gentle creams, in colors like early morning mist and late afternoon tea. Inside each little heart lay dried lavender blossoms mixed with a few stray petals of rose, a breath of chamomile, and a tiny crumble of vanilla bean. They were not made to cure headaches or fevers, nor to mend broken bones. They were made for something quieter and more mysterious, to soothe the restless corners of the heart and to invite sleep to come and settle like a kind friend beside the pillow. On a certain evening when the sky hung low and calm over the town, the apothecary was quieter than usual. The bell on the door had not chimed in some time. Outside, the street was bathed in a velvety twilight, and the lanterns flickered in a mild breeze. This was the evening when a new story began to unwind like a ribbon. It started with a soft rustle near the door. Elian looked up from a tray of lavender buds they were sorting. The brass bell jingled, not loudly, but with a shy, tinkling sound. A figure stepped into the shop, wrapped in a coat the color of smoke. Their name was Mira. Mira had walked through the town with her thoughts wound tight around her like ivy. She had not intended to come to the old apothecary, but the scent had guided her here, a delicate trail of lavender and honey, of dried leaves and quiet rain that seemed to curl under the door and reach out to her. Inside, she paused, allowing her eyes to adjust to the warm dimness. The air was rich with layers of fragrance like the pages of a well-loved book. There were notes of pine and juniper, of orange peel and clove, but beneath it all, as constant as a heartbeat, lay the calm, floral presence of lavender. Elian smiled from behind the wooden counter. It was not a hurried smile, nor a questioning one. It was simply an open expression, as if they had been expecting someone, perhaps not Mira in particular, but someone who needed exactly what the apothecary had to offer. "Welcome," they said, in a voice as steady as the candle flame beside them. "Please take your time. The shelves remember what people need." Mira wandered slowly down the narrow aisle. Old wood creaked softly under her steps. She brushed her fingertips along glass jars labeled in looping hand: rosemary, lemon balm, marshmallow root, valerian, wild thyme. Each name seemed like a piece of a spell. There, on a lower shelf, nested in a woven basket, she saw them for the first time. the lavender hearts. They were plump and soft, each one stitched with careful, small stitches. Some were patterned with tiny stars, others with leaves, and a few with hearts so faint they were like whispers. When Mira leaned closer, the scent rose up to meet her, gentle and sweet, threaded with warmth. Lavender hearts, Elian said quietly from behind her. They are for rest, for those whose minds wander long after the lamps are extinguished. Mira turned the nearest heart in her hands. It fit perfectly in her palm, a small, comforting weight. Do they really help? She asked. The question carried not skepticism, but something softer, a fragile hope seeking a place to land. They remember calm, Elian replied. Sometimes that is enough. You place one by your pillow or keep it between your hands as you drift toward sleep. The scent does the rest. It reminds your heart of what it already knows but has forgotten in the noise of the day. Mira traced the tiny stitches with her thumb and felt a quiet begin to settle in her chest, like dust in a sunbeam. She decided, without needing to decide, that she would take one home. But Elian had already turned back to the counter, where a wooden tray lay waiting. Upon it were fabric squares in muted shades, little bowls of dried herbs, and a needle threaded with pale, sturdy thread. Would you like to see how they are made? They asked. Sometimes it is easier to accept comfort when you see where it comes from. Mira hesitated only a moment, then nodded. And so in the heart of the old shop, under the watchful gaze of glass jars and dried bundles hanging from the rafters, Elian began to teach her the quiet craft of lavender hearts. First, they chose the fabric. Elian's hands hovered over the squares, then settled on a pattern of soft gray sprinkled with tiny silver specks, like stars on a cloudy night. This one is good for those who think too much, Elian said, placing the fabric on the counter. It remembers the sky and how it goes on, existing peacefully, even when we forget to notice. Next, they opened a jar of dried lavender. The tiny buds inside were dusky purple, some fading toward blue, others toward soft brown. When the lid came off, the scent spilled into the air, thick and calming, wrapping itself around Mira like a shawl. Breathe with it, Elian murmured. Mira inhaled slowly, drawing in the floral fragrance. As she exhaled, she felt her shoulders slip downward, as if they had been gently persuaded to rest. They added a pinch of crushed rose petals for warmth of heart, a touch of chamomile like quiet sun, a hint of vanilla bean for sweetness. Each ingredient carried its own subtle story, its own soft intention. Then Elian folded the fabric, right sides together, and began to stitch. The needle slipped in and out in a serene rhythm. Mira watched, entranced by the softness of the movements, the patience woven into each stitch. The sound of the thread pulling through the cloth was as gentle as a sigh. Outside, the night grew deeper, but the apothecary glowed like a small lighthouse of warmth, The candle flickered, its flame leaning closer, as if listening to the silent conversation between hands and fabric, between herb and air. When the tiny heart was nearly closed, Elian paused. "Would you like to fill it?" they asked. With careful hands, Mira lifted pinches of the fragrant mixture and dropped them into the waiting pouch. The buds rustled softly like leaves turning in a breeze. She took her time, listening to the minute sounds, feeling the small shifts of weight in her fingers. When the heart was full, Elian sewed the final seam, closing it with a neat row of stitches. Then they pressed it into Mira's hands. "There," they said, "a lavender heart for restless nights. It is very simple, and sometimes that is the most powerful thing of all." Mira lifted the heart to her face and took a slow breath. The world seemed to narrow around the scent, which unfurled inside her like a gentle ribbon. Thoughts she had carried all day began to drift, loosening their grip. There is a story that herbs like these remember every hand that has touched them, Elian added, their voice low and thoughtful. They carry those memories into the hearts we make, so each lavender heart knows quiet mornings and peaceful afternoons and nights when someone finally slept deeply after many wakeful hours. Perhaps that is why they are so comforting. Mira stayed in the apothecary for a while longer, wandering between the shelves, listening to Elian speak of herbs and their old, patient wisdom. They spoke of lemon balm and how it encouraged the mind to loosen its knots, of chamomile that coaxed worry back into its shell, of rose that whispered of tenderness and safety. She touched corks and glass, twine and paper. Each texture, each scent, each small detail seemed to tug her further away from the tangled web of the day. The apothecary wrapped her in its calm like a blanket that had been warmed by the sun. At last, Elian wrapped the lavender heart in thin, crinkling paper. They tied it with a slender thread, not in a tight knot, but in a small, easily loosed bow. "Rest is meant to be simple," they said, offering the small package to her. "No binding, only gentle invitation." Mira stepped outside into the night, the bell chiming once more as the door closed softly behind her. The town had grown quieter. The lanterns shone more softly, as if they too were preparing to drift toward sleep. The sky above was a deep indigo now, sprinkled with stars that looked very far away and very close all at once. Clutching the wrapped lavender heart, Mira walked home along the cobbled street. Each step felt slower, more measured, as if the rhythm of Elian's stitching had entered her bones. When she reached her small upper room, she lit a single candle and set the lavender heart by her bed. The paper rustled as she unwrapped it, and the fragrance rose gently, like the memory of a warm afternoon in a summer field. She sat at the edge of her bed for a moment, holding the heart between both hands. It was warm from her touch, and she imagined that inside the dried lavender buds were awakening, releasing their calm into the air. The window was open a crack, and a soft breeze wandered in, carrying a hush from the sleeping town. She lay down and placed the lavender heart upon the pillow beside her face. As her eyes drifted closed, the apothecary flickered across her mind again. The shelves, the candle, the slow stitching, and Elian's steady voice, speaking of herbs that remembered comfort. The memory merged with the scent, and together they formed a gentle, quiet tide. Mira's breaths grew longer, deeper. The room seemed to grow larger and softer, the edges dissolving into night. Thoughts still came, but they moved more slowly now, like clouds passing across a tranquil sky. None of them stayed for long. In the old apothecary, Elian moved through the nightly rituals. They closed the shutters, leaving them just slightly open at the bottom so the night air could still slip in. They checked the jars and the bundles, running a hand along the shelves, as if greeting old friends. The beeswax candle burned low, its light golden and honey sweet. Elian gathered the remaining scraps of fabric into a basket, then carried it to a wide wooden table under the window. There they spread the pieces out and studied them, imagining the lavender hearts that would be sown tomorrow and the restful breaths that would follow. In the rafters, bundles of drying herbs swayed gently, whispering their quiet leaves against one another. The apothecary was not empty even when no customers stood at the counter. It hummed with a slow, contented presence, like a cat sleeping in the sun. Sometimes, when the town grew very still, Elian could almost hear the lavender hearts themselves, tucked away in drawers, resting on nightstands, cradled in hands and pressed to pillows in the houses beyond the apothecary's walls. They imagined those little sachets breathing out their delicate scent into the darkness, easing furrowed brows, smoothing troubled dreams. They imagined Mira in her upper room, the lavender heart by her cheek, her breathing calm and peaceful at last. The thought was a small, quiet warmth in their chest. And so the nights unfolded, one after another, in a rhythm as slow and steady as Elian's needle passing through cloth. There were evenings when rain tapped gently at the windows, and the air inside the shop grew cool and clean, washed by the storm. On those nights, the lavender hearts smelled even sweeter, their fragrance mingling with the scent of wet stone and old wood. There were clear nights when the moon hung large and luminous above the town. Its pale light slipped through the shutters and silvered the shelves. The jars glowed faintly, their contents shadowy and mysterious. In that moonlit stillness, the apothecary felt like a place outside of time, where worry could not quite find a foothold. On certain evenings, children came in with their parents, gazing wide-eyed at the jars and bundles, whispering to one another that this must be where dreams were kept. Elian would smile and let them sniff the lavender hearts, watching their faces soften as the fragrance reached them. On quieter nights, when the bell did not chime, Elian would still make a few hearts, letting their hands move slowly through the familiar motions. Stitch by stitch, they would sew peace into the fabric, even if no one was there to see. They believed that calm could be stored, just as herbs could be jarred and labeled, that somewhere in the quiet spaces between the shelves, rest was being kept safe for anyone who might need it. In this way, the old apothecary became not only a place of bottles and remedies, but a keeper of gentle moments. Far above the shop, the sky turned and turned, bringing seasons in their soft progression. Winters came with frost shimmering on the windows and breath blooming in small clouds in the doorway when customers stepped inside. On those nights, Elian added a sliver of cinnamon to the lavender hearts for warmth and comfort. Springs followed with delicate green leaves unfurling in the apothecary's small back garden, the air filled with new scents, fresh and hopeful. Elian walked among the budding plants, fingertips grazing young lavender shoots, whispering thanks for their quiet magic. Summer nights arrived with crickets singing beyond the open shutters and wind carrying the distant murmur of late conversations. The apothecary grew just a little warmer, and the lavender hearts seemed to hold the sun within their small shapes. Autumns brought wind that rustled the drying herbs and carried in the sharp, sweet smell of fallen leaves. Elian made more hearts then, sensing that as the days grew shorter, more people might seek comfort for their sleep. And through all these seasons, Mira returned to the old apothecary. Sometimes she came with new worries folded in her pocket like letters. Sometimes she arrived already calmer, simply wishing to refill the lavender heart that had grown faint with time. At other moments, she came just to sit a while and listen to the quiet as Elian stitched and the candle burned low. The lavender heart on her pillow became a small anchor in the night. On evenings when her mind felt busy, she would hold it gently, breathing in the familiar scent. The thoughts were still there, but they grew softer, their edges blurred by the steady comfort of the fragrance. It did not solve everything. Lavender hearts could not untangle every knot or solve every problem, but they did not need to. They offered something humbler and just as precious, the space to rest, so that the heart could remember its own strength when morning came. So, night by night, in a town paved with cobblestones and bathed in lantern light, an old apothecary and its quiet keeper continued their work. Tiny stitches, dried blossoms, soft fabric, and a faith in the gentle power of rest. And somewhere beyond those cobbled streets, in another place and another time, the memory of that apothecary lingers like a scent in the air. It drifts now into the room where someone lies listening, breathing slow and deep, perhaps not realizing that the quiet comfort they are beginning to feel is not so different from the peace the lavender hearts carried into all those nights long ago. The shop grows dimmer in your mind, its lanterns soft, its shelves fading into shadow. The bell on the door is still now. The door is closed, but not shut against anyone. It simply rests, as doors do when there is no need to open. Inside, Elian has finished for the night. The candle is extinguished with a gentle puff of breath. A thin curl of smoke rises, carrying with it the last trace of beeswax and honey. In the dark, the lavender hearts are still, but their presence can be felt as if they are tiny stars hidden in drawers and pockets, waiting to glow in dreams. Outside, the town is quiet. Windows are dark. A few late birds tuck their heads beneath their wings. The sky is a deep, comfortable blanket, holding the town close. The old apothecary sleeps. And as it rests, you rest with it. Your own room is quiet. The surfaces around you are steady and familiar. The air is gentle, moving only slightly, like the breath of someone sleeping nearby. Your body is supported. The place beneath you holds your weight without question, without condition. It does not ask you to do anything. It only offers to carry you. Notice your breath again. It does not need to change. Just notice. Slow inhale, filling up softly. Slow exhale, emptying without effort. Perhaps, if you wish, you can imagine that somewhere near you, a small lavender heart rests. Maybe it is on a pillow or on a nightstand or resting in a folded hand. Its scent is light, not overwhelming, just a suggestion in the air. With each breath, the idea of that scent reaches you. A floral calm, a whisper of comfort. Inhale, a little more softness. Exhale, a little more letting go. Your thoughts can drift if they want to. Like petals on a river, they can turn and swirl and move downstream. You do not have to follow each one. You can simply watch them pass or not watch at all. The story has already unfolded. The apothecary is quiet now. Mira is sleeping peacefully in her upper room. Elian is resting, their work for the day done. The lavender hearts are scattered through the town, doing what they do best, reminding hearts of calm. There is nothing more that needs to happen. You have arrived at the place the story was guiding you toward all along, this soft edge of sleep, this gentle border between waking and dreams. If stray thoughts tug at your attention, that is all right. You can imagine placing them gently into a small jar, like those on the apothecary shelves, and closing the lid for now. They will be there in the morning if you need them. For now, they can rest too. Feel the quiet in your limbs, the heaviness in your arms and legs. They are like stones at the bottom of a clear pond, unmoving, peaceful. The water above them ripples gently, but the stones remain still. Your face is smooth, your jaw unclenched. Your eyes grow heavier, lids soft and warm. If they have not already closed, they may drift closed now or whenever they are ready. Breath in and out. The night holds you just as the old apothecary held every soft sound and every drifting scent. There is space for you here in this quiet. You can imagine a shelf with your name on it, not to store burdens, but to hold a small glowing presence of comfort reserved just for you. It never runs out. It never grows old. Whenever you return to this place, it will be waiting, patient and kind. The cobblestone street in your mind is very dim now, lanterns flickering at the very edge of your awareness. The sign above the apothecary door is only a shadow of a shape. The details fade, as all stories do when sleep comes. What remains is the feeling. Soft fabric between gentle fingers, the calm rhythm of a needle passing through cloth, the fragrance of lavender drifting. The sense of being welcomed without question into a place where rest is not something to be earned, but something to be received. Allow that feeling to sink deeper, like a small stone dropping into a clear pool, sending rings of calm outward through your chest, through your shoulders, through your arms and hands, down through your spine, through your hips and legs, all the way to your toes. Ring after ring of gentle calm. You do not need to hold on to this feeling. It holds you. If sleep has not already begun to wrap around you, it is close now. Each breath draws it nearer, like a soft blanket being pulled up over your shoulders, up over your heart, up to the tip of your chin. You are safe here. You are allowed to rest. The story has done its work. The old apothecary will be there somewhere inside you whenever you wish to visit again. For now, you can let it dim and drift away as dreams start to rise quiet and light. Let go and rest. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.